start with the main question. What exactly is phonics? Phonetics or phonics is basically a method of teaching children how to read and write English language or any language for that matter. This is primarily done by developing their phonemic awareness. Now, when I talk about phonemic awareness, what do I mean? I am talking about the ability to hear, see, and basically manipulate the letter sounds. These letter sounds are known also as phonemes in the technical world. There are 44 phonemes in the English language, and Jolly Phonics, one of the curriculums with which popularly children are taught phonics, has or teaches 42. There is another term that you will definitely come across when you're dealing with phonics is something known as graphemes. Graphemes are nothing but the smallest unit of writing by which you represent these phonemes. So in layman terms, if I have to explain to you, I can say the letter sounds would be the phonemes and the letter names or the way we represent these letters like A, B, C is graphemes. So phonemes are letter sounds and graphemes are letter names. Now, there are two schools of thought when we are talking about phonetics. The first one coming to synthetic phonics and the other one is analytical phonics. Now, as the name suggests, analytical phonics is also known as whole sight reading, or the method by which you and I actually learned to study, speak and write the English language. We study first the whole words by sight, by identifying the word as it is, and then break it down into the smallest units of sound. Very tedious and takes a lot of time. And the second most popular method is synthetic form of phonics. This way, we are teaching reading by actually using the letter sounds, and we teach the child to blend and also decode at the same time. So if I give 3 letter sounds to the child like k, a, t, the child can make a word like cat or tack. So that becomes your synthetic phonics, and that's the way they blend. Now there are many curriculums by which we teach phonics, and Jolly Phonics is a very popular curriculum, mainly for 2 reasons: popular in Asia and I would say Europe. First of all, it's predominantly a British English curriculum, and secondly, the most wonderful part and my favorite is its multi-sensory part. Now, when I talk about multiple sensory, we first need to understand the senses. So you have our 5 senses, and the child actually uses at least 2 or 3 of them simultaneously while reading or writing. For example, when a child is reading, the child is seeing the letters, hearing the words that they're reading, if they're reading aloud, and also the brain processing that is happening. The best part about Jolly Phonics is that it caters to any kind of learner. What I mean by that, some children are visual learners. They love bright pictures and they love to see colors. And Jolly Phonics has beautiful, amazing picture books with which we depict the stories, such as this. And the pictures are nice and vibrant, and using these we can explain the letter sounds to the children. Some children are auditory, so the Jolly Phonics songs work, and some are extremely kinesthetic and really do not like worksheets. So what I do is just shove away the worksheets and use a lot of movement, lot of sensory material to actually teach the children, and it's been an amazing success. I've had a lot of success with Jolly Phonics for both neurotypical and neurodiverse children. So children with autism, dyslexia, speech and hearing impairments, and even with articulation issues, they work brilliantly with Jolly Phonics. There are main 5 pillars on which Jolly Phonics stands. The first is the letter sounds, and there are 42 sounds or phonemes that we discuss in Jolly Phonics, and they are made up of your 25 single letter sounds. So you'll be like, Neha, what's wrong with your math? It's supposed to be 26 letters in the alphabet and not 25. So if you know or if you have observed that Q comes with you every time in any word in English: query, quiz, quilt, queen, quack. So always U is kind of stuck to Q. So I call them my conjoined twins, and they are also known as digraphs. So two letters making one sound. So you have 25 single letter sounds and you have 17 digraphs, and they come together forming your 42 phonemes. Now you need the letter sounds for reading. What about the writing part? So the second main pillar is letter formation. Now if you pick up any storybook, anything that you may have. So I just have my Jolly Phonics, my Osborne Phonics readers here. And if you pick up the storybook, and you can see the pictures are nice and vibrant, and they're in lowercase. So for me, in my personal opinion, I always go for lowercase or small k letters first to teach the children. And of course, in the pre-writing skills, we do the standing lines, sleeping lines, slanting lines, and the different curves, so wherein it's easier for them to form the letters. Another important point is that I really do not like the dot method, because I feel that no part of processing is taking place to understand the formation of letters. So what instead I do is that I give minimum number of dots to the child to form the letters. So what I do is, if I give just 3 dots to the child has to actually think, okay, now I can form so many letters with those 3 dots. So in case I'm looking for the letter S, the child has to actually think, okay, how do I connect the top part or the first dot to the second dot so that it looks like the top part of S? How do I connect the second dot to the third dot so that it looks like the lower part of S? So there's actually a brain processing which is taking place. And another most important thing is it's fun. You can always do letter formation with a lot of tactile games and elements. And one game that you and I played, when we were growing up, I think that we learned the language fabulously. We had people, our friends, write something on the back, and we had to guess what letters they were. And that is one of the main games that I use for letter formation with my students, and it works brilliantly. And once they know how to form the letters, it's handwriting without tears. Then they really do not stress about writing, because they know how to form the letters, and that's the main concept behind letter formation. The third most important and most tedious process in any phonics curriculum is blending. Now, in layman's terms, if I say that you want to make your favorite mom's recipe of chutney, you just take the different ingredients, put them in your blender, and you have your chutney ready. But it's not going to taste as yummy as mom's, right? So that's what blending is. You can get the whole technical stuff right, but it's extremely subjective, because every child is unique, every child is different, and the way they grasp the blending concepts are going to be different as well. So blending is nothing but you take the individual letter sounds, bring them together to form a word. And it's always better to start with 2-letter words and then gradually move to 3-letter, 4-letter, 5-letter. I do not advise teaching phonics in any form using word families. First of all, we do not read English from right to left. We read English from left to right. And secondly, it works only for 3-letter words. Cat, mat, at, family, right? Ed family, egg family, etc. But what about 4-letter words? Then I have had children who have studied this method, and then they come to me, and then they are so afraid to read 4-letter and 5-letter words. They are like, no, I can't read. I can't form a family with this. It's just not working. And then you have to go back to the drawing board and work out a method where they understand blending. So don't you think it's much easier that you actually teach them to read 3-letter words and 4-letter words and graduate very easily, seamlessly, with the right method, than to just make them read CVC words? Sentences are not made up of consonant, vowel, consonant combinations. They are made of CVCC and a lot of other combinations. You have 2-syllable words, etc. And you need to make the whole process enjoyable. So the next important part that we come across is segmentation after blending. Now, once the child starts to read your words using the blending techniques, they should also know how to spell it. So they should know the concept of decoding the word. So if I had dog, they hear, okay, I can hear a d, or and a g. So basically segmentation also is, you are familiar with the words and you are able to break them down into their different components. So you have blending, which is used for reading, and then you have segmentation, which will now be useful for writing purposes or dictation or spelling. The last and the most, I would say controversial part in any phonics curriculum is sight words or tricky words. And these simply are your regular words, okay? In Jolly Phonics, you call them tricky words because they look like our normal words, which can be read phonetically, but they cannot be read phonetically. So they do not really follow the rules of phonetics, and there are exceptions to that, like who, I, look, go, put, etc. It's important that you introduce tricky words early to increase fluency of the child, as they appear very frequently in the text, and that's why the child needs to know them by sight. But unfortunately, in most schools, especially in India, once they cater to the single letter sounds, they immediately start with tricky words or sight words teaching. Now, it's like blending is quite a tedious process, and frankly, with a large number of classrooms, large number of students in each classroom, it becomes very difficult to kind of have individualized attention to every child when it comes to blending. So many schools adopt the method of teaching the single letter sounds and then directly going alongside with tricky words or sight words listing, which are given normally to parents, and then they said just make the child by heart this list, and that's how it is done. But once a child develops that habit of by hearting maximum number of words, the child will not formulate a habit to do blending, because like I said, blending is tedious, it requires hard work, and if you can just by heart a word, why would you want to sit and blend it? That is why it is not advisable. First, you need to make sure that the child can blend, and then go in for sight word reading. And this is one important question that I always get whenever I do my workshops, is that if the school is teaching phonics, should we teach the child at home? If the school is following the right sequence in terms of teaching phonetics, please let the schools do their job. But if the school is simultaneously just teaching the single letter sounds and then handling you lists of sight words and tricky words to make sure that the child is by hearting the whole list, sorry, that's not going to work. And then you will have to make sure that you undergo proper training and then teach your child. So this was a little background on phonics, what it is not. It is not a magic wand. It is just because during our time, it was okay for our kids, for us to start reading at the age of 5 and 6. Importance was not given so much on reading till the age of the child reaches first grade or second grade. But now you are expecting in this competitive world that the child should know EVS, maths, geography, history, and a lot of different concepts by the age of 5 and 6. Of course, you need to reintroduce teaching to read and write even earlier than that. And phonics gives that kind of a head start to the child. So it all depends on the kind of educational system that you choose for your child. You can choose for an alternative education system which does not really stress that the child should know how to read and write by the age of 4 or 5, contrary to the other curriculums where the child should write paragraphs and a lot of lines and 4 letter, 5 letter, 6 letter words by the age of 5 and 6. So by the time the child is in first grade, the child should be absolutely fluent and accurate in terms of reading and writing. So it completely depends upon the curriculum and the school that you choose, whether you want to invest in a home-based phonics curriculum or not. Um, I will be happy to take any of your questions if you all may have. I'm sure I was able to help you all with at least a gist of what phonics is, what Jolly Phonics is made up of. Reading is an amazing hobby that you can cultivate in your child. Uh, I would say more than a hobby right now in today's times, it's become more of a necessity to drive the children away from gadgets and the television. But I find it very rewarding as an educator when the parents of my students send me pics of their children reading for the first time, and that's the time that I feel so wonderful, and that's when I feel that my job as a trainer for any parent or teacher has been completed, when the student has actually started reading. Till then, my job is not over. And I think that's a most beautiful gift that you can give a child, is the gift of reading, because it opens their world to imagination, creativity, visualization. The child can end up reading any subject that the child has interest in, provided the child can read. So please develop this habit as early as possible, in a good way, not because the child has to do academics. That's of course going to be the part and parcel of their life for time and immemorial, but as a leisure activity. Don't always introduce books because you want the child to learn something, but there should be a lot of novels, non-fiction, fiction, informational books that the child can just immerse himself or herself in this beautiful world of reading and literacy, and it will be wonderful. I think the most idealistic situation for me would be the day my son just props himself in my lap and opens up a book and says, "Mama, read to me," or "I'll read to you." And I think that is the basic dream that every mother should have, that the child should become a reader on the lap of the parent. So I wish you and all your kids a very happy journey into learning, literacy, and most importantly, reading. And I hope